Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today's episode is about how change comes when you get involved. This week's episode features Stefano Di Rico, who is a student and mental health campaigner working with a variety of different organizations in the UK. It was great to talk with Stefano and to learn more about the work he's doing with Orly Health, Young Minds, and My Life, My Say. And I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. So, let's get started with this episode featuring Stefano Di Rico.
Thanks, Lily, for having me. My name is Stefano Di Rico. I'm a 19-year-old student and youth mental health campaigner. I've been involved in the space for 4 years now. First becoming involved with Young Minds, and for the past year and a half, I've been working with Orly Health, which is a health tech startup supporting parents. And more recently, I've sort of branched out into different sorts of campaigning. So I've become involved with My Life, My Say, which I believe is where we met, isn't it?
That's awesome. And it's not every interview that I actually have met the person in person. So this is a special one. I love it. So, can you tell me about what got you started wanting to get involved in social action and doing this work where you're learning about different issues and you're representing other people and you're doing work that gives back and makes change? What got you started with that?
So my journey into sort of activism and campaigning really began in mental health. So I was realizing that my own journey with mental health started quite early on in my life when I was about 6 or 7, dealing with my own troubles. But when I was just post lockdown, so I must have been around 15, I realized that I was helping other people, and it was a bit too much. So I was like sort of counted it was more than you could count on two hands, the number of people who came to me for some sort of advice. And I really began to realize there and then that there was an issue which was bigger than just you can help one person, it will be fine. That was a systemic issue. So I approached my school and I said, look, there's some stuff at school which I think could be done differently, and there's some stuff in society. What can I do? And they sort of gave me some tips for in school and outside of school. And they said, look out for Young Minds. And I was really looking for their stuff and I wanted to be involved with Young Minds. It's an amazing campaigning group working with young people throughout the organization. And that was really the start of it. And I've been involved in political projects since with them. And I think I have this nature within me, which has sort of been that I can't just help that one person. I need to help more than one, which is quite ambitious. But it's obviously when you. I was talking today with someone, and he sort of mentioned when, because I'm starting to do some content creation, and he was like, right, when you're making content, think about the one person who you're trying to help in that one post, which is a phrase which a lot of us have heard quite a bit, but it's a fundamental of content creation. You have to help that one person, but then by having that mentality, you're able to help everyone else. And you mentioned something earlier in the question, which was the way that I think is helping those who aren't in the room. And that's what has always been something which has always spoken to me with the work at Young Minds and in the mental health campaigning in itself, which has been not everyone has the opportunity to voice their opinions, and not everyone has the opportunity to say what changes they'd like in the system. And I want to support the voices of those people and bring them to those people without taking away from their stories.
I think that sounds amazing. And I think a lot of synergy with the work that I'm doing as well. I think it's that idea of trying to understand other people's circumstances and listening to their stories and maybe just trying to see how you might be able to help even just a little bit. That's something that I really think about a lot as well with the content creation side of things too. I always tell people this podcast, for example, not every episode is going to be for everyone. And I make that super clear. But if one episode inspires one person, great. That's a good thing. And if I can keep doing that with 200 or however many I end up doing, cool. All right, we're getting there, and I think that's just a great way to think. Can you tell me a little bit about your work with My Life, My Say? It has a very special place in my heart, of course, but what got you started with My Life, My Say? What made you want to join? And for those people who haven't listened to an episode that mentions My Life, My Say, can you also give a brief summary of what My Life, My Say does?
I can just picture Dan just being all ears right now, thinking, is he going to get the pitch right? No, so I'd basically seen a lot of My Life My Say's work with the Give an X campaign. I sort of saw it dotted around. I said, okay, that sort of piqued my interest into what it was. And then someone who My Life My Say knows very well and who I've done a bit of work with myself is Ben West. He was doing some work at the Headspace decaf, and that was the day before the general election. So it was a busy day for My Life My Say. But I said, you know what, this sounds really cool. It's with Ben. Always admired a lot of his work, and we have a very good relationship. So I said, okay, I'll try and pop along. It's in London, so I was like, okay, great, I'll go. And I think I was approached by Dan and Paris at the event, and firstly, the event itself is just amazing. Like the team from Headspace is incredible. Had made some really nice connections there, and Dan and Paris are amazing. And then ended up going for a pint with Ben. It was George, Patrick, and Dan was there as well. And after the event, and it was just, I was just some of the stuff that My Life My Say was involved in. And I was like, yeah, I need to get myself involved. And then, quite funnily enough, I was at my work basically, which is Audi Health, and we share the same offices as you guys. So I was at Plexel, and I just look around. I was like, everyone's here. So yeah, no, that was lovely. And um, basically, My Life My Say are a charity which is really leading to the political conversations with young people, making young people aware of politics, making them feel comfortable in themselves to be able to talk about politics. So really great work. I really recommend.
I think that was a great overview. I think Dan will be proud. I'll play this for Dan. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. So I think that actually brings me really well to my next question, which was going to be about Young Minds and the work that you're doing with mental health. And it's funny that you mentioned Ben West, because then that brought me to the Next Gen conference where he did the barbershop panel. And I think there's lots of connections with the work that you do, which is great. All of these different organizations want to help each other, and there's a lot of synergy. Can you tell me a little bit about Young Minds as well? Tell me about what that organization does. Do the same thing that you just did with My Life My Say, but for Young Minds too.
So the best way to describe them, which is the one which I've always done, is basically full charity organization, young people everywhere within it. So they get young people on their board, which I know My Life My Say is something which they're looking at doing very soon, which I'm very excited for. And they've got young writers programs, young youth activists, young advisors. I'm part of the activist program, and the activists are basically, how I say, is the public facing young people of the organization. So Young Minds, a lot of the work, they've obviously got parents helpline helping parents directly, but also a lot of their work is policy. So they effectively spearheaded alongside Mind the Fund the Hubs campaigns, and that was a campaign which I had the pleasure of being part of. And it's basically to get early mental health support hubs in every single postcode. And it's just really, really impressive how far they've come, I think. And a lot of the stuff that they've been doing has been inspiring. Recently, the Crushed by a Million Pressures campaign, which was in King's Cross, which again, just really impressive and breathtaking work. And I was really excited when Dan asked, let's get them involved, let's get them down to Next Gen. So I was really happy to see them there as well. And yeah, with Ben and Badu was that was an incredible barbershop idea, which yeah, just sort of blew me away. But it was really, really nice event. Just Ben's an amazing campaign, and just hearing him speak, I always manage to take some sort of ideas and just sort of inspiration for if you're ever looking at the mental health space and you're looking what's going to happen next, what are some of the ideas which we should look at next? Look at Ben's work, and then you'll always be able to get a clearer idea.
That's a great shout out for Ben. And so that actually also leads me to the next topic very well. I would love to know your thoughts on this moment in the mental health discussion, especially around men's mental health, because I think it's something that we don't talk about enough. What are your thoughts on that? I kind of just shared mine, but as someone who does this work and as someone who is really involved in these organizations, what are your thoughts on that issue in particular?
So, really nice question, and it's something which I'm always nervous to answer because honestly, my opinion changes on this very often. But I always split into two halves. Firstly, so there's the half of where we are as a society, where we are as in terms of public policy and needs and requirements. Where we are as a society, I think that we're doing a really good job, to be honest. I've made this prediction before. I think in 5 years' time, we won't be talking about stigma anymore. In mental health, I really have felt in the past year and a half that it's no longer a thing which is holding people back, especially in the south of England. Okay, in the north, it's slightly different. I've had a discussion with someone in Ireland, and they've mentioned cultural differences there, which are making it a bit more complicated. But stigma in general has really gone down, and it's something which everyone in the space, no matter what sort of campaigning you're in some sort of campaigning, should be incredibly proud of. Men's mental health in itself, it's a very complicated field. I think that we should be wary not to put it too closely to masculinity conversations, but I think that does need to have a place. This again brings you into political democracy sort of ideas and a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing with populism recently. But I think that we need to consider why are young men looking towards leaders like Andrew Tate, Nigel Farage, Donald Trump? Why? What are they missing? And then from there we can go and we can explore that. But until we do that, we should not carry on saying, "Oh yeah, just stop talking about Andrew Tate in the classroom." You can't do that because you're not going to get anywhere. You really can't. And there was a great post by, I think it was TES, and they stand for something to do with education. I actually have no clue. But I think they reposted something really well on the how teachers should interact with Andrew Tate discussions in the classroom. And the comment section was actually really appalling in my eyes. And I've got this privileged view of being a man who was educated in a certain way, and I'm very grateful for that sort of experience which I've had. But a lot of the conversations were exactly the reason why that post was created, because it was a load of female teachers who were very much against the idea that it should be a discussion, potentially, if possible, ran by a man or an influential figure who, for example, the DT teacher who goes to the gym very often should have the discussion because he's a positive role model. And a lot of people were criticizing that idea. And to me, that just purely upset me because I just thought, hold a second, they've literally made you the textbook of what is positive masculinity. I've done a whole talk on positive masculinity and how we should stop framing this narrative of toxic masculinity, toxic this, toxic masculinity that. That only just makes the stigma worse. If we reframe it in a narrative of positive masculinity, you can say what aspects are positive, and it's basic psychology. Like if you're going around to a bunch of people who have been told you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say this, you can't say that, their whole lives, they're not going to want to do what you're telling them. They just won't. So let's actually use all the education which we've got and take it and actually run with it and use it for good. And oh well, if the education board wants to have a chat, they know where to find me.
I'll link your details.
I
They'll
sort
be
of
able to
hijacked your
find you.
question there. Sorry.
No. I think that's really interesting. I do think that you can tell how passionate you are about these issues. That was great. I have one more question for you, and I think you'll have a great answer. Lots of young people want to create change and make a difference, but they might not know how to get started with that work. What advice would you want to share with those people who may be listening?
Um, I love this question. It's something which I've been thinking about a lot. There's something which is missing at the moment in education, which is purpose. Young people don't know what their purpose is. They might not even think that's important to them. They might not even know what the word means. But the idea that a young person shouldn't just be at school should be in everyone's minds, but it's nowhere. The only thing which people are thinking about, the only thing which parents are thinking about, the only thing which school bodies are thinking about is what are they going to get in their grades. They might care slightly about how their sports teams are doing. You have to ask someone, what do you care about? What's something which you inherently care about, which people come to you for advice, or what's something which you think about once a week, twice a week, and you've always thought, oh, I'd really love to get involved in that, or I'd love to start something. That everyone's got that might just be me, but everyone's got that sort of I want to do this, I want to start this. But take a step back and realize, okay, there's this thing which I've been involved with, and if you haven't got that, that's completely fine. What's that one thing which your mum cares about? What's the one thing which your best friend cares about? And think about that. And then from there, you sort of think, okay, I've got my thing, I've got my niche now. I don't know if it's my niche yet, but it might be. Let me go look online. Let's see what organizations are doing good work, because you probably already have seen their stuff. Let's be honest. If you're into politics, you probably saw Given X, and you saw, okay, their stuff's pretty cool. What should I do? How can I get involved with them? Go onto the website. They'll have something. Most organizations have some sort of youth board, and you can just get in touch. If you can't find it online, just write them an email and say, I'm a young person. I'm XYZ amount years old. I'd love to get involved. The reason I'm involved with Dr. Mark Cox, and I've got a whole Instagram reel which should hopefully go out this week if I manage to learn how to edit, is I wrote a comment on his LinkedIn post on the 1st of August 2023 saying along the lines of amazing, would love to get involved. I'm now fans associate working for them pretty much a day a week, and I'm part of the founding team. You just have to start somewhere. You don't have to find your own company. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. Just start something. Record a video on your phone. Start, because from there, then you'll get to know people. You get to know who's in the space, and be curious. Don't. There's a thing in the campaigning space which was actually something which people picked up on who were at the previous two My Life, My Say conference. I was only at the most recent one, and I didn't feel it at the most recent, but they said 2 years before was sort of a campaigners trying to one up each other. This year felt authentic. This year felt campaigners are in it together. Campaigners want to make change, and we're going to get there because of these reasons. And it's really that. Once you get into campaigning space, yes, there can be sort of, what's that person doing there, but don't get too caught up in all of that. That stuff just happens in any sort of environment. But once you think, okay, this is what I like doing, people start to notice, and then the opportunities will come after. But get involved, write those comments, write those emails to companies, and just say, hey, I want to be involved. You're doing really cool work. Because most of the time they don't get that appreciation. I want to hear what you've got to say.
I really enjoyed catching up with Stefano, and it was great to talk about his work as a campaigner. I want to close out this episode by highlighting some of the advice that Stefano shared, because I think he made some really important points about getting involved in social action work. Stefano talked about finding what you're passionate about, and then figuring out who is already doing work to address that issue. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel and create your own organization or your own project. Reach out to people and find organizations or groups who are also passionate about that issue and who are already working to make change. Collaboration is such an important tool, and change comes when you get involved. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find Stefano and some of the people he mentioned on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I included those links in the description of this episode. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be The Change Media Network. I am working on expanding Be The Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment, because it will help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.